Can we please remain standing for the national anthem? Thank you. Please sit down. Thank you. Bonjour et bienvenue à tous. Mwaramutse, tubahaye, ikaze, muri yinama, yi sabukuru ya AfDB. Thank you. His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, our host president. His Excellency Mohamed Abdelaziz, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union. His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda. His Excellency Ali Bongo Ondimba, President of the Republic of Gabon. His Excellency William Ruto, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Excellencies President Festus Mogae, former President of the Republic of Botswana, and His Excellency former President of Tanzania, Mr. Benjamin Mkapa. Her Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Clarice Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Honorable heads of institutions of the Republic of Rwanda, Excellencies, Honorable Ministers of the Government of the Republic of Rwanda, Excellencies, Ambassadors, and members of the Diplomatic Corps, His Excellency Ambassador Claver Gatete, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning of the Government of the Republic of Rwanda, and the Chairperson of the Boards of Governors of the African Development Bank Group, Honorable Governors of the African Development Bank Group, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, President of the African Development Bank Group, members of the Boards of Directors of the African Development Bank Group, our dear former presidents of the Bank Group, Mr. Donker Forger and Mr. Babaka Njae. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I welcome you to the 49th annual meeting of the Bank and the 40th annual meeting of the African Development Fund, We are grateful that you all responded favorably to our invitation. Allow me in particular to convey our deep appreciation to His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, who graciously accepted to preside at this ceremony. President Kagame has further honored us by inviting his colleague presidents from different parts of the continent. We're therefore very pleased to welcome President Abdelaziz, President Museveni, President Bongo, and Deputy President Mr. William Ruto. We are very happy to be in Kigali, the famous city of 1,000 hills, known around the world for its wonderful weather, the beauty of its flowering trees, and its very green mountains, and also known for the kindness and efficiency of its people. It is in this blessed setting that we will conduct the annual meetings of the Bank Group and celebrate the 50th anniversary of the African Development Bank, 50 years in the service of Africa. The formal opening ceremony will run as follows. We will have the welcome address of His Excellency Ambassador Claver Gatete, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning of the Republic of Rwanda and Chairperson of the Boards of Governors of the African Development Bank Group. This will be followed by the statement of Dr. Donald Kaberuka, President of the African Development Bank Group, and then the statement of His Excellency Mohamed Abdelaziz, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chair of the African Union. And then we will have the honor of listening to the keynote address by His Excellency Mr. Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda. With your permission, I now would like to invite His Excellency Ambassador Claver Gatete, Minister of Finance and Economic Planning, to come and make his statement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Your Excellency, the President Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, and the host of these annual meetings of the Africa Development Bank Group, Your Excellencies, heads of states and former heads of states and government, the President of the Africa Development Bank Group, honorable governors, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my colleagues, ministers, and governors, I have the pleasure and honor to welcome you all to the land of 1,000 hills, and thank you for honoring our invitation. Allow me, Mr. President, to give special thanks to our leaders for taking time out of their very busy schedule to give guidance to this bank. This shows real ownership of the bank by our leaders. Mr. President, under your leadership, our government has done everything possible to make this event a success. And if there are any shortcomings, I would like to apologize for them. The 2014 meetings coincide with the celebrations of the institution's 50th anniversary. This year's meetings are not only an opportunity to take stock, but also to project ourselves in the future, reflecting on the aspirations of Africans, the destiny of our continent, the Africa we want, and the role of the bank in fulfilling these aspirations. As we look back, we have reasons to celebrate. Over the last 50 years of its existence, the bank has grown tremendously from humble beginnings. In 1964, when the bank was established, it started with only 10 staff members, 33 member countries, and $387 million in initial capital. By end of last year, 2013, the bank accounts now over 2,000 staff members and $33 billion in active operations with 78 member countries. Some of the changes we celebrate today and find encouraging include the alignment of the bank's interventions to the needs of its region members, the decentralization process of the bank's activities, and the focus on the integration of the continent through infrastructure development to facilitate trade. The bank has also developed solid partnerships, not only with the institutions on the continent, such as the African Union, NEPAD, the ECA, and the regional economic communities, but also with global sister institutions and with friends of the bank. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, preparations are well advanced in the process of returning the bank to its headquarters in Abidjan. One of the factors that allowed the bank to continue to deliver against its mandate was the conducive environment from which the bank benefited. Allow me to thank the government and people of Tunisia for their sense of hospitality for the bank to perform. As the continent was experiencing structural changes and sometimes difficult times, the bank evolved in a way that kept it relevant and responsive to the needs of its clients. Over the years, the bank has shown resilience and innovation in delivering on its mandate. We want to commend the bank's leadership under the President, the Board of Directors, management, staff, for the great work and achievements made over the last 50 years. The bank, with its 10-year strategy, has set the stage for a strong entry into the next 50 years. The strategy recognizes that the continent is changing, and as such, the bank will need to continue adapting and taking bold steps to support the development of the continent. Indeed, the achievements of the past are a strong foundation on which to build the Africa we want. This year, we are looking forward to discussing as governors the Africa 50 Fund and the diversification of the bank loan products already approved by the Board of Directors, for which we want to thank them. We will also review the objectives for the African region in key areas such as regional integration, trade, infrastructure, private sector development, job creation, governance, and green growth. The 10-year strategy of the bank is a step in the right direction. We look at it again in light of the Africa we want for the next 50 years. From Monday, a series of high-level seminars and events involving our leaders and experts have addressed the global economy, the continent's economic, social, and political issues, and seek solutions to a better future for Africans. All these will feed into our deliberations to inform the future actions of the bank. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I would like to recognize that what has been achieved over the last 50 years would not have been possible without the unwavering support of our shareholders. As we begin the journey into the next 50 years, even a stronger commitment will be required to realize the ambitions of the continent. At this occasion, I'm happy to welcome new shareholders who will be joining our deliberations for the first time. Let me once again welcome you to Kigali and hope you are not just confined to the annual meeting site, but should take time off and visit other parts of the country. I thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I have the honor of inviting at this time my boss, President Donald Kaberuka, to make his statement. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, heads of state and government, governors, eminent persons, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for your presence. I'll be speaking for about 18 to 20 minutes, so please bear with me. I want to wish you a very warm welcome to Kigali and to the AGM. This is a great day. Thank you, President Paul Kagame, your government, and the people of Rwanda for the hospitality, for such fine arrangements, and for making us feel so very welcome. I know how much effort has gone into making this event a success. The first time in 50 years that the AGM takes place in this country. I speak for everyone here in expressing our very deep appreciation for what the Rwandan people have done. To the leaders here today, we're very much conscious of the competing demands on your time. So, thank you. To the many distinguished personalities here today, retired former leaders, Chairperson of the AU Commission, Executive Secretary of the ECA, Vice President of the World Bank, heads of REX, my distinguished predecessors, heads of global, continental, and regional organizations, leaders of Rwanda's institutions and ministers of the Rwanda government, members of the diplomatic corps, captains of industry, civil society here today, thank you all for your friendship. Mr. President, that we are here today, so many, is not a coincidence. 20 years ago, here in Rwanda, 1 million people were exterminated. In only 3 months, the fastest massacre in recent history. That chapter, one of Africa's darkest, will forever mark the history of this continent. Last month, the international community came together in Rwanda, united in commemoration. I was here representing the bank and its members. In the aftermath of this ignominious chapter, Rwanda was written off as on the way to a failed state. Indeed, from all angles, the situation looked very desperate. And yet, here today, the cross-section of the whole world of finance and beyond, a recognition of how far this nation has come. We want to pay homage to you, Mr. President, and your government, the people of Rwanda, for your accomplishment, your resilience, and tenacity in healing a wounded nation. The story of this country's journey of reconstruction is one yet to be written. But there are lessons here very relevant to many African countries facing challenges of reconstruction, such as South Sudan, Central African Republic, Somalia, and many others. I can think of 2 lessons. The first one, it does not matter how bad the initial conditions are, a determined people can prevail against even the most impossible of all odds. I know that many friends of Rwanda in Africa and abroad, individually and collectively, have made a contribution. But that said, it is only fair to add that nothing would have been possible without the people of Rwanda themselves doing the heavy lifting. Second lesson I can think of, where there are many manuals on how to put up the most complex structure, even sending man to moon, there's no such a toolbox as to how a destroyed nation is rebuilt. People have to look to their culture, their history, the nature of the crisis they face, and come up with their own solutions. This is what is happening here in this country. I know Rwanda has a long way to go. There are many challenges, but those solutions that are often difficult and counterintuitive are working. I hope, Mr. President, you will agree that the African Development Bank, through our different interventions over the years, has been a reliable partner in this journey. Only last week, our board approved a sector budget package of $76 million to promote skills and help deal with unemployment. We remain a committed friend in this quest for reconstruction and transformation of Rwanda, of East Africa, and Africa at large. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I know I speak for all of you that we all share a sense of revulsion at what is going on in that corner of northeastern Nigeria and its ramifications. To those innocent girls abducted as they prepared for their exams and now in captivity for more than a month, as Africa's leading development finance institution, we hold very dear the right for girls to go to school alongside their brothers. It is at the heart of the demographic dividend. We are at the disposal of the Nigerian government as to what support we can provide in rebuilding that part of the country. In that same vein, we vehemently condemn the violence and terrorist groups bent on interrupting Africa's economic takeoff and spreading mayhem in Nigeria, in Kenya, in the Sahel, and the Horn. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les gouverneurs, chers amis, à Marrakech, l'année dernière, nous avons longuement discuté de l'état de l'économie africaine dans son contexte mondial. Nous avons posé la question de savoir ce qu'il fallait faire pour maintenir la dynamique actuelle. Il y a lieu de rappeler en particulier l'accent mis sur la nécessité de garantir l'équité, la justice sociale et la mobilité sociale. Cela, me semble-t-il, des enjeux sur lesquels nous sommes tous d'accord. Notre intention cette semaine n'est pas de ressasser les mêmes problèmes. Nous savons ce qu'il faut faire. Nous savons ce qui doit être fait. La question fondamentale que nous pourrions nous poser cette semaine est celle du fossé qui existe entre le diagnostic et les solutions proposées. Prenons le cas de libre circulation des personnes. Est-il vraiment normal que les étrangers puissent circuler plus librement en Afrique que les Africains? L'expérience récente de l'Afrique de l'Est, cette région, est riche d'enseignements. Les gouvernements de la région ont pris des mesures audacieuses en faveur de la libre circulation des personnes. Déjà ici, au Rwanda, ainsi que au Kenya, les ressortissants des pays africains peuvent entrer et sortir librement. Et l'expérience est tout à fait positive. Les craintes de criminels, de menaces à la sécurité et de vagues massives de migrants se révèlent souvent être de fausses craintes faciles à gérer par la coopération et la technologie. Nous attendons tous avec impatience le passeport africain que Mme Zuma nous a promis hier. Ce n'est pas une affaire de sentiments liés à notre africanité. C'est une façon d'approfondir le marché intérieur de l'Afrique, plateforme indispensable à plus de croissance économique et de prospérité. Nous avons de bonnes raisons de nous réjouir de nombreux cas où des progrès ont été accomplis. La réalité, cependant, est que le temps ne joue pas toujours en notre faveur. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, en 2009, l'économie du monde était pratiquement à l'agonie. Bien qu'elle soit désormais sortie de soins intensifs, la réparation des dégâts de 2009 prendra du temps. Certes, la plupart des pays africains ont été et demeurent résilients. Malgré la persistance des problèmes différents, notre continent continue de défier les pessimistes, enclins à sonner le glas de l'Afrique trop tôt. Mais l'Afrique ne saurait être un îlot. Une des actions fondamentales à entreprendre concerne la discipline macroéconomique. Nous devons continuer à renforcer nos capacités à faire face aux chocs extérieurs, aux événements inattendus. Ces derniers temps, nous avons assisté à une vague de dépréciation des monnaies, d'aggravation des déficits budgétaires et des comptes courants, d'accumulation de la dette. Nous ne devons jamais perdre de vue que la stabilité macroéconomique a coûté cher. Les douloureuses réformes des années d'ajustement structurel, la décennie dite de la sueur et des larmes. Un des domaines concernés est la gestion de la dette. Gardons toujours à l'esprit les règles d'or à suivre en matière de la dette. Emprunter avec prudence, investir avec sagesse et renforcer la capacité de la gestion de la dette. Cela dit, il n'y a pas lieu de s'alarmer à ce stade. Nous devons simplement accorder une attention particulière à ces questions. Une fois que le changement du mode de calcul du PIB aura été effectué, comme le font beaucoup de nombreux d'autres pays à l'heure actuelle, je pense même que certains indicateurs pourraient s'améliorer. En Afrique du Nord, il est également urgent de porter l'attention au-delà des questions macroéconomiques. La production du pétrole de la Libye, qui était d'environ 1,3 million de barils par jour, est aujourd'hui tombée pour s'établir à 300 000 barils par jour. Bien qu'elle se stabilise quelque peu, la Tunisie et l'Égypte, des gros emprunteurs de la banque, ont souffert d'une série d'abaissements de leurs notes de crédit, qui leur permet difficilement d'accéder au marché des capitaux. Une préoccupation plus grande encore est que cet abaissement de la note des deux pays limite leur accès à nos propres financements, à raison de limites prudentielles que nous ne pouvons pas dépasser en attendant que la note de ces pays s'améliore, ce que nous espérons voir dans un proche avenir. Nous avons été amenés entre-temps à réduire nos engagements sur les deux pays. Je suis persuadé néanmoins que ces deux pays se remettront très prochainement, car leurs fondamentaux sont prometteuses et fortes et ont affiché de bons résultats par le passé. Dans l'intervalle, à la demande des ministres des Finances du G8, nous collaborons avec d'autres organismes internationaux pour trouver une solution novatrice dont nous vous exposerons ici les grandes lignes et qui, si elle est réussie, pourrait permettre la reprise des prêts en faveur de l'Afrique du Nord. Your Excellencies, my dear friends, in 1964, the Founding Fathers laid the foundation for the creation of the African Development Bank. This year, 2014, we celebrate the Golden Jubilee. It is a moment to look back into the mirror, the last 50 years, the road we have traveled, but above all, to project into the future for the mountains we must still climb. In 1964, the Founding Fathers had a dream. That dream was born at a moment of high hopes, aspirations, optimism for our continent. There followed a period marked by cycles of changing fortunes, political instability, and economic decline. Times of optimism, times of discouragement, even moments of despair. New terms were even coined: Afro-pessimism, the lost decades. However, the important thing is, irrespective of those setbacks, those early hopes and aspirations never died. Men and women of goodwill ensured the dream survived. 50 years later, we can be proud that the African Development Bank has been faithful to the dream of the Founding Fathers. As the chairperson was saying, from a modest start, today the AfDB is a first-class, world-class institution of global standing, out there with the very best. An institution that has committed over $110 billion since it was founded. An institution whose franchise value grows by the day and which continues to attract new members. Last week, I was in Luxembourg to sign the acts of the membership of that country, and I'm honored to welcome them here today, joining Turkey, which has now completed membership procedures. The franchise value of this bank has been powerfully demonstrated by your decision to triple our capital base 4 years ago from $33 billion to $100 billion. I have been pleasantly surprised at how even the poorest countries who subscribe to the capital increase have been paying up and on schedule. That franchise value has been demonstrated by the way our concessional window, the African Development Fund, has been continuously replenished, even at times of tight budgets, as last September, for which I express my deep appreciation. But on what basis can you assert that AfDB has been true to the Founding Fathers' spirit? First, we have been true by remaining a financially sound institution. From whatever financial metric, this is a very robust organization financially. One of the few in the world still rated AAA by all the leading rating companies. Thank you. Even at the most testing period, times of maximum turbulence, such as the global financial crisis, the economic dislocation in North Africa, all our stress tests for even the most unlikely scenario return a verdict of very robust risk-bearing capacity. The second reason, we have remained true to the spirit of the founding fathers by staying relevant. Relevant in normal times, making the needed sound strategic choices. In crisis times, by making counter-cyclical loans such as we did in 2009. As we did in 2009, nearly doubling lending at the time. We have remained relevant by leveraging our funds often in a ratio of 1 to 6. In addition, our knowledge products, our voice, have contributed in providing member countries timely policy advice, well on broader global issues, giving an African perspective, based on our local knowledge. Third reason, we have remained true by insisting on being a focused institution. We resisted mission creep, a temptation to be everything for everyone. We narrowed on a few areas of comparative strength, especially infrastructure and economic integration, private sector governance, and support to countries in transition. Your Excellencies, we remain true to the spirit of the founding fathers by building a resilient organization. In my time as president of this bank, I, as you would expect, have faced many challenges. But I could say 3 of them have tested our mettle. The first challenge, the prolonged operation out of headquarters. The relocation from the headquarters in the Ivory Coast was initially thought to be a brief interlude, a few months at the very most. In the end, it ended up being a 10-year surgeon. This meant that staff had to operate in circumstances of considerable uncertainty over a decade. The second challenge, 3 years into my tenure, we had to confront the impact of the global financial crisis. Our task then was first to minimize the impact on the bank's own financial health at a time when banks and non-bank financial institutions all over the world were under threat. The second was to ensure that our countries do not suffer lasting damage. We decided, therefore, to step up counter-cyclical lending. The third challenge, 1 year into my second term in office, we had to operate right in the middle of the Tunisian revolution. And of course, the subsequent impact of the Arab Spring and economic dislocation among our major clients in North Africa. These were challenging moments for the bank, which could have had an impact on weaker organizations. Yet at no time was the bank's operational capacity or its finances weakened, or even our ability to serve our clients lowered in quality. To the contrary, business has continued to grow in size, in scope, in complexity, as the demand on the bank's products was on the increase in the aftermath of the financial crisis. Thank you. I do not know of any institution of this size and complexity which has been through this kind of trauma yet emerged fully intact. Only a super resilient organization and the staff committed to deliver on their mandate could have been able to pull off this feat. Finally, let me say, the African Development Bank has strived to remain a dynamic organization that changes continuously to adapt to Africa's needs. Just a few examples. The decision to open up the capital to non-African countries, a decision controversial at the time, but which multiplied several times the bank's financial firepower. The introduction of the private sector window, now accounting for close to 30% of all the bank's operations. The new innovative instruments being created all the time to support the private sector. The many institutions we have nurtured: the Import-Export Bank of Africa, the Afrexim Bank, housing institution, Shelter Afrique, a Pan-African Reinsurance Organization, Africa Re, and now the historic decision to create a special vehicle and platform for infrastructure, Africa 50, a vehicle set to make a step change in the way we fund infrastructure on the continent. The ADB has also continued to search for new partners to leverage its resources. This afternoon, I'll have the pleasure to sign with my good friend Governor Zhou, who is here with us, Governor of the Central Bank of China, a $2 billion co-financing instrument for both sovereign and non-sovereign loans, for which I would like to express my appreciation to the people of the Republic of China. The African Development Bank must now adapt to the challenges of Africa in the 21st century. Remembering, though, that our mission number one, economic integration, remains as valid today as it was in 1964. Your Excellencies, just before concluding, let me say a word about the theme of this meeting, the Africa we want. The AU Agenda 2063 provides that clear vision. Those dreams, ambitions are well articulated in that document, and incidentally, in my good friend Dr. Dlamini Zuma's email from Bahir Dar. Some may feel 50 years too far away. To the contrary, in our planning process in Africa, Africa has often suffered from too much short-termism. Africa now needs a long-term view of her interests, her future, such as how our external partnerships are defined, such as how our natural resources will save our own industrialization. The Africa we want is in reality not different from what our founding fathers' dreams were, what they defined as independence. What is different is that in the last 50 years, the world has undergone tectonic shifts, massive shifts in economic power, which, so to speak, has democratized the distribution of economic power around the world. We now have poles of economic power in the north, in the east, in the west, and parts of the south. Our task in Africa now is to ensure that Africa is part of that process. But here is the problem. We must reinvent and re-engineer our development financing model. On this continent, pools of savings are not insignificant, but the willingness to pooling investment strategies, not resources, pooling a bit of our economic sovereignty for collective good, is what will define our ability to make progress on that count. This applies not only to financial power, but other sources and capabilities, such as our natural resources utilization strategy. The future that is dependent on foreign goodwill is no future. Your Excellencies, let me now say a few things before I close about our return to headquarters in the Ivory Coast. Next time we meet in May, it will be at our headquarters in Abidjan. The next 12 months will be a momentous period for the bank as we go back to our headquarters. It is a logistical challenge, but for which we are well prepared. The roadmap you approved in Marrakesh for the return of the bank is being implemented faithfully. The return is already well underway. Many staff have already settled in the Ivory Coast, and the feedback is very positive. Others are set to follow. I myself and the board of directors will be moving in early July. We have received excellent cooperation from both Tunisia and the Ivory Coast. I would like to join the chair of your board of governors once again here to thank the Tunisian people and government who were such marvelous hosts during our decade-long stay in Tunis. Now, as you know, definitely, I will be stepping down after our next meeting in May. After 10 momentous and exciting years, it has been an incredible opportunity to lead the bank at a time of very deep and fundamental changes in the economies of Africa. It has been a pleasure to work and lead with the support of a highly committed and talented staff. We have done all we can to ensure that Africa meets this new momentum. I hope I have merited the confidence you put on me when you elected me in 2005 and renewed that confidence in 2010. Thank you so much. So, senior management and I are equally honored to be able to return the bank to its headquarters at the moment we celebrate the bank's 50th anniversary. Of course, I still have 12 months and there remains much to do, in particular, consolidating some of our achievements, ensuring an orderly return of the bank to Ivory Coast, and rolling into place some of the key initiatives which you will consider today. So to conclude, let me thank you all for your support and the friendship which the bank continues to enjoy. I thank the governors, our board, management, and staff of the bank for their dedication. I thank partner institutions and all those who in one way or another contribute in ensuring the bank remains an instrument that serves the African people and of which you can always be proud of. So God bless you all and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. J'ai l'honneur d'inviter Son Excellence Mohamed Abdelaziz, Président de la République islamique de Mauritanie, de prononcer son discours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فخامة الرئيس السيد بول كاغامي رئيس جمهورية رواندا الشقيقة، أصحاب الفخامة السادة رؤساء الدول والحكومات، السيد رئيس مجموعة البنك الإفريقي للتنمية، السادة المحافظون، السادة أعضاء السلك الدبلوماسي وممثلو المنظمات الدولية، السادة المدعوون الكرام، أيها السادة والسيدات، يطيب لي في البداية أن أتقدم بجزيل الشكر لفخامة الرئيس السيد بول كاغامي ومن خلاله إلى الشعب الرواندي الشقيق على حفاوة الاستقبال وكرم الضيافة اللذين حظيت بهما والوفد المرافق لي منذ حللنا بهذه العاصمة الجميلة كيغالي. كما أتقدم بالتهاني إلى أصحاب الفخامة السادة رؤساء الدول والحكومات وإلى رئيس مجموعة البنك الإفريقي للتنمية بمناسبة تخليد الذكرى 50 لإنشاء البنك. أصحاب الفخامة، أيها السادة والسيدات، إننا نثمن عالياً ما تحقق من إنجازات منذ أن أنشأ القادة المؤسسون سنة 1963 منظمة الوحدة الإفريقية التي أصبحت فيما بعد الاتحاد الإفريقي وأداتها المالية للبنك الإفريقي للتنمية سنة 1964 الذي ساهم بشكل فعال في برامج التنمية في البلدان الإفريقية من خلال تدخلاته الواسعة في الاقتصاد الحيوي المختلفة. فقد أثبت وجوده كمؤسسة رائدة للتنمية بإفريقيا وكأحد البنوك الرئيسة متعددة الأطراف المساهمة في تنمية دول الأعضاء. وقد ظل البنك الإفريقي للتنمية رغم الظروف غير الملائمة أحياناً هيئة نشطة تساهم في مكافحة الفقر وفي تحسين الظروف المعيشية لسكان القارة وفي دعم النمو المستدام والتنمية الاقتصادية والاجتماعية للبلدان الأعضاء. وأنتهز هذه الفرصة لتهنئة السيد دونالد كابيروكا رئيس مجموعة البنك الإفريقي للتنمية وجميع معاونيه على ما حققوه من نتائج معتبرة. أصحاب الفخامة أيها السادة والسيدات، تنعقد الاجتماعات السنوية للبنك الإفريقي للتنمية هذا العام تحت شعار إفريقيا كما نريدها في الخمسين سنة القادمة. وقد تمكنت قارتنا رغم الأزمات الاقتصادية والمالية وخلال السنوات المنصرمة من المحافظة على نمو متواصل من 4 إلى 5%، لكن ثمار هذا النمو يجب أن توزع بطريقة أكثر عدلاً وتوجه إلى خلق فرص للعمل من خلال تنمية القطاعات الواعدة. عند الحفاظ على معدل النمو هذا ورفعه لا يمكن أن يتحقق إلا في ظل الاستقرار والأمن والسلام. فقد دمرت النزاعات والتوترات اقتصاديات بعض البلدان وعاقت الجهود في مجال التنمية مؤثرة بشكل سلبي على نمونا الشامل. ونحن نتطلع إلى إفريقيا مستقرة يسودها الحكم الرشيد ويزدهر فيها الاقتصاد والتسيير الشفاف. إن قارتنا بحاجة إلى استثمارات ضخمة لتمويل البنى التحتية التي تشجع النمو والاندماج، خاصة في مجالات النقل والطاقة. وفي هذا الإطار يجسد انطلاق صندوق أفريكا 50 المخصص للبنى التحتية استجابة مناسبة لهذا المطلب. إن قارتنا بحاجة كذلك إلى تنوع اقتصادها وجعله تنافسياً وإلى الاستقلال الأمثل لمواردنا في المجال الزراعي والثروة الحيوانية لإنقاذ شعوبنا من الفقر. وهنا تلتقي استراتيجيتكم العشرية وشعاركم الخمسينية بالشعار الذي تبنته القمة الأخيرة للاتحاد الإفريقي لسنة 2014، سنة الزراعة والأمن الغذائي. أصحاب الفخامة أيها السادة والسيدات، إني على يقين أن البنك الإفريقي للتنمية الذي استطاع الصمود في مختلف الظروف وساهم في دعم التنمية في البلدان الأعضاء سيظل متمسكاً بطموحه المنسجم مع طموحات قادة القارة المعبر عنها من خلال أجندة 2063 لإفريقيا. أصحاب الفخامة، أيها السادة والسيدات، اسمحوا لي في الختام أن أهنئ أخي وصديقي الرئيس بول كاغامي والشعب الرواندي الشقيق الذي استطاع في فترة وجيزة التسامي على آلامه الجسام وتخطى تلك اللحظات المأساوية في تاريخه لبناء دولة عصرية لكل الروانديين تحت شعار المحبة والسلام. عاش الاتحاد الإفريقي، عاش البنك الإفريقي للتنمية. أشكركم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I have the distinct honor at this time to invite our host president, His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, to make his opening statement and declare the annual meetings open. Thank you.
Excellencies, the Chairman of the African Union, President Abdelaziz, Excellencies, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President Ali Bongo Ondimba, Deputy President of Kenya, William Ruto, former heads of state, President Benjamin Mkapa, Festus Mohai, our Chairperson of the African Union Commission, governors, directors of the Board of the African Development Bank, the President of the African Development Bank, dignitaries here present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Rwanda for the annual meetings of the African Development Bank, and thank you for honoring our country with your presence. We extend our warm congratulations to the African Development Bank on your 50th anniversary. The African Development Bank and your capable president have been a real asset to the continent's advancement. Particularly appreciated is the bank's attention to the practical issues related to your core mandate and your focus on innovative ways to drive development in Africa. Without a doubt, Africa has made progress over the last half a century. For most of our countries, the road has been uneven, and we have sometimes stumbled or stalled, but we have forged ahead. Across the continent, there is a renewed sense of optimism that gives meaning to the now familiar phrase of Africa rising. We are starting to see the positive effects of improved governance and better integration in the global economy, thanks to different technologies, among them ICT. We also have opportunities in a growing middle class and a youth bulge. Africa is one of the few places in the world that has a lot of room to grow, and more businesses are taking notice globally. But Africa has always had the attributes necessary to rise. So why have we fallen short? Long spells of instability in parts of Africa, high energy and transport costs, fragmented and non-integrated economies, and a high dependency on primary commodities are just some to the well-known obstacles. Over the last 2 decades, many African countries have worked to resolve major problems and began to lay the foundations for future prosperity. Take the example of instability. A number of difficult situations around the continent today remind us that progress can always be reversed. And here we also have got to be reminded that together we can rise, or together we may fall. We are responsible for ourselves, but we are also responsible to some extent for each other. Instability in any part of Africa affects us all. That is why we have seen increased engagement by African leaders, the African Union, and the regional organizations in peace and security matters on the continent. Further progress depends on Africa's ability to work together and with other partners on meaningful mechanisms to resolve conflicts. It also calls for continued strengthening of our respective internal systems to prevent conflicts in the first place. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we cannot afford to sit back and take the future of our continent for granted. Yes, Africa is rising, but it is not enough to exceed the low expectations that others had of us and which we at times even came to have about ourselves. To give our citizens, especially young Africans, the lives they dream of, we have a lot higher to climb. Our countries have smart policies that we have seen work elsewhere in the world, but the kind of rapid advancement we all want will only be achieved by sound implementation. In particular, taking Africa's development to the next level will require a much bigger role for the private sector, which generates jobs and more wealth. As governments, it is crucial to consistently invest in and strengthen our efforts to create environments that nurture and promote innovation and entrepreneurship. The first to take advantage of an improved business environment should be African companies. Since 2007, intra-African investment has grown at a rate of 32%, more than double that of non-African emerging markets, and almost 4 times faster than FDI from developed markets. There is still a lot of potential to be realized, and we can do more to encourage this trend. Today's most important challenges cannot be tackled by any country on its own. This is true of infrastructure, trade, facilitation, policy harmonization, and even marketing. For the East African region, the Northern Corridor Projects Integration Initiative between Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda for rail and energy infrastructure development streamlined customs procedures, as well as easing free movement of our citizens and tourists within our countries, is a recent example. Deeper regional and continental integration is not only good for Africa, it is good for investors and trading partners. It makes it easier and cheaper and less risky to do business in Africa. Distinguished audience, for the first time, the world seems to be going our way. By collaborating better, the bright future reflected in the Africa Rising narrative has a greater chance of becoming a reality within our lifetimes. Focused implementation of our respective transformational national agendas based on the aspirations of our citizens will ensure that we have healthy paths working together for more productive partnerships in Africa. The African Development Bank, as a global institution, is an essential bridge between Africa and the wider world. It keeps the focus on Africa's unique economic priorities, yet speaks a language everyone understands. The African Development Bank is a model of how Africa and the developed world can work together for mutual benefit and with mutual respect. Africans are very clear about what is important. We all want peace, progress, and opportunity. I'm optimistic we will get there, but it will not be without great effort within every nation in Africa, and above all, among all the nations of our continent. Mr. President, I have the honor and privilege to declare the 49th annual meetings of the African Development Bank officially open, but before that, let me once again tell you, President of the African Development Bank and the Board of Governors and all those that have worked with you, that you should proudly look back for the last 10 years, and I wanted to let you know that you have not only made the bank proud, not just Rwanda, but our African continent. We thank you. Thanks for your kind attention.
Murakoze Chane, Mr. President. The opening ceremony is now drawing to a close, and my work as Secretary of the Board is going to reach its peak today. But I'd like to thank you on behalf of the President and management of the African Development Bank for attending this opening ceremony. We are most honored. I would like to thank deeply our host president for accommodating the bank and giving to us wonderful facilities for our annual meetings. We are most grateful. And we would like to thank the presidents, Madam AU Chairperson, and all of those that have honored us with their presence today. This opening ceremony is going to be followed immediately by a very unique event. The leaders of the continent that are present here today are actually going to honor us by having an open dialogue, a Have Your Say event. My boss calls. Excuse me, please. My boss is always more precise than I am. So the leaders are going to come to the holding room, and we are going to prepare the stage for them. I will highly encourage you to be patient and stay for the Have Your Say event. Thank you very much.